Last season, the NBA was led by Nikola Jokic, who is an international player. The most famous NBA star, Luka Doncic, happens to be an international player too. And bear with me because in the 2024 conference semifinals, the remaining 8 teams had 11 international players in total, all from Europe. And the craziest part was that 5 of them were very popular and extremely successful players in the league, like Rudy Gobert, the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the 2-time MVP, Luka Doncic, the man who recently scored 73 points, Kristaps Porzingis, the 2018 All-Star, and of course, Nikola Jokic, the man the Denver Nuggets will never forget. Also a 2-time MVP. Not only that, but Victor Wembanyama and Luka Doncic are in the running to become the face of the NBA after LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant say their goodbyes. Not to mention that 2 of the 8 remaining teams in the conference semifinals were led by European players. And with that being said, while the vast majority of the stars are predominantly American, there's a sizable number of the biggest stars all coming from Europe. And have you ever wondered if there's something European basketball is doing right to produce this level of elite talent? Is there anything the NCAA or high school basketball in America could take from Europe to produce better players? Because come on, the last 6 NBA MVP trophies were won by international players. First, let's talk about the different set of rules that make European players stand out in the league. And we should blame Shaq for changing the rule because the defensive 3-second rule really makes the difference here. See, in Europe, the big men, they don't have to move at all. They can just sit in the paint all game and wait for people to drive. And because of that, all the European players in the leagues are pros in terms of slashing hard defense. And if you can cut the defense with a big man standing in the paint all day long, how easy is it to dominate the league with a defensive 3-second rule? Well, the perfect example is Luka Doncic. Luka even said that when he's in ISO, he waits and checks whether the big man has to leave the paint or is about to go back in.
I only say scoring is easier in NBA just because of the amount of the different rules, the less space, the time. So that's why I said it.
So you think it's harder to score 30 points in a EuroLeague game than it is in an NBA game?
Yeah, 100%.
In Europe, if you try to drive inside, the center will always be waiting for you because of that defensive 3-second rule, right? Well, the big man inside is not your only problem because in Europe, they all use one measurement of the court, and it's much smaller than in the NBA, which means you have less room to create your own shot. If you want to see how NBA players from the US handled these set of rules, just watch the Olympics. Check out how Kevin Durant was the only player from Team USA scoring at will under FIBA rules, while the others were mostly complaining to the refs. Adding to that in Europe, the basketball system is like a well-oiled machine, consistent and predictable. They not only have the same court dimensions, but they also have the same rules and same 3-point line used all year around. There's no confusion because there's a shot clock at every level, everywhere you play. It's straightforward, unlike the basketball rules and court sizes in the US, which are a mess and very confusing. Because depending on the state, some basketball games might have a shot clock, while others don't. Also, the rules can differ from high school games to AAU tournaments, which can distract players from focusing on developing their skills on the court. Just take a look at these rules. In the NBA, the game is played in 4 12-minute quarters, while in the NCAA, games are played in 2 20-minute halves. Then in high school, games are typically played in 4 8-minute quarters. Also, in the NBA, the 3-point line distance varies from about 22 feet in the corners to 23.75 feet elsewhere, while in high school games, the 3-point line is 19.75 feet from the basket. In Europe, you stick with one club the whole year. You're a part of that club that not only has teams for kids and teens, but also professional senior teams for men and women. It's like being in one big sports family where you grow and move up through the ranks as you get older and better at the game. You usually have the same coach all year, which really helps because it keeps things simple. You don't have to worry about switching teams or coaches, and you can focus purely on improving your game. On the other hand, in the US, sports are often tied to schools, and the basketball season only lasts during the winter. So players frequently look for other places to play the rest of the year, which is why AAU basketball became such a big deal. Moreover, during the summer, the very best players represent their countries and national teams. This is serious business, very organized and strictly managed by the FIBA Europe, unlike the less formal AAU circuits. Over there, a club might only enter big important tournaments a few times a year, focusing most of their time on training and developing their players. This model of sticking with one club all year round helps athletes focus on what really matters, getting better at their sport, without the distraction of bouncing from one team to another, which again, the basketball system in the US does not possess. Kobe Bryant once highlighted a key issue in the NBA: the scarcity of skilled big men. He pointed out how players like the Gasol brothers, who come from Europe, bring a different set of skills to the game. The easy and quick explanation that is, if all big men are always in the paint, even the toughest center in the universe cannot withstand 40 minutes of war below the ring. So they should learn how to shoot from 3, or at least a long-range 2. And that's why in Europe, basketball training doesn't care how tall or short you are. Everyone learns every skill. Big men handle the ball, guards learn to score from inside, and forwards master the art of passing. Take Nikola Jokic, for example, a center dribbling like a guard or a guard posting up in the paint, throwing threes up like they were nothing, to the point that even Davis himself cannot understand the logic behind it.
Just gets it off in time, it's up, oh, it's good! Of course it goes in! Jokic from downtown! Anthony Davis just stares at him!
Comparing that in the US, where players often get typecast into specific roles from a young age. If you're tall and strong early on, you might end up stuck under the basket, focusing mostly on scoring from close range, and might miss out on developing other basketball skills. In Europe, you know exactly which club you're playing for, what the rules are, and where you'll be heading next in your basketball journey. This reduces stress and decisions, unlike in some AAU settings where players might try to heavily influence their kids' sports careers, treating it more like they own the process. Now, Luka Doncic, by the way, is our prime example, because a lot of the newer superstars that are coming out of Europe, but excluding Luka, they were all crafted into diamonds while in the league. Giannis and Jokic were not really produced by Europe, but they just come from Europe. Luka, however, was already a top-level talent in Europe before coming to the NBA, where his game immediately flourished. As for why Luka was already so good, EuroLeague development is much better than AAU and the NCAA. And why so good is our topic, right? So other than developing a center who can easily shoot a 3, no defensive 3-second rule, same measurements of the court and lines, same time, same everything, what makes Luka and European training so special? Over in Europe, the approach to developing young basketball talent is pretty intense. Teams there typically practice 5 to 6 days a week and play just one game. And this makes sense because the more practice and less game time means players really hone their skills. And compare that to the AAU system in the United States, where teams might only practice a couple times a week, but play 3 to 5 games every weekend. Because of that, young European players are usually a little more versatile. They can dribble, pass, shoot, and most importantly, they can play as a team. And many young athletes in the United States, though incredibly gifted physically, often have noticeable gaps in their game because they've relied mostly on their athleticism and haven't developed other skills as much. Partly because the AAU often doesn't provide the kind of comprehensive training they need. This also affects their basketball IQ.
It wasn't like that because some factors they weren't here and we didn't give them an opportunity to get in. Now we're getting a lot of them to get there. But you have to understand, they have started playing professional basketball when they were 14, 15 years old, 13 years old. So they know how to play the game and they know how to do it.
See, Peyton is right, because in Europe, young kids start serious basketball training at a very young age. While many kids in the United States might treat basketball more as a hobby and only start thinking seriously about it when they're aiming for a scholarship at around age 15. European kids are hitting the gym hard when they're just 10. By the time they reach 18, they've developed an incredible work ethic and their skills are well polished from practically living in the gym. And if you were asking why Luka is so good and why people get mad at him because he says it's too easy, Well, it's too easy for him because he's been doing it his entire life. He's mastered it. He's been doing it for a decade, where he has spent more than 10,000 hours doing this, which is the requirement to truly master the game of basketball. However, starting intense training so young does have its downsides. It can be tough on the body, and not all kids make it through the rigorous club system without injuries. But those who do make it, like Luka and others, became incredibly skilled and disciplined. Furthermore, European training also puts a big emphasis on recovery and flexibility. That makes European players more flexible than their American counterparts. They regularly get massages and treatment for any injuries, which helps them cope with the demands of intense training.